Hey, what is up everyone? It is Rich. Alright, welcome to the video. We are going to look at more Wildstorm material. I actually shot a couple of videos yesterday. I haven't uploaded them yet, but I did some deeper stuff, meaning moving further away from these early books, and I was doing books from kind of around 2005, 2006. It was interesting, but I felt that they could be better, so I opted to hold them back, and I'll probably either reshoot them or choose different issues. Wasn't a big deal. The books were cool, but yeah, I felt like the videos could be a little better. So I'm more particular than you might imagine, and some days it just doesn't click for me, even if I spend a lot of time on it. So this is an interesting book. So you know, I was not collecting comics exactly at this time. This was a little before I started collecting comics, but I picked all of these up, and this book was very interesting and quite challenging as a new comic book consumer. But we'll get into that first. So let's do the credits really quick. So this is written and created by Mike Heisler, with a co-creator credit to, I believe, Jim co-created it, and we'll get into the other credits in a second. But anyway, Mike Heisler is actually he's possibly more known for being a letterer in comics, and he was actually the editor-in-chief a year or two after I got hired at Wildstorm. Really good guy. I would actually love to have him on the channel. He's worked with everyone. He's done, I mean, he's lettered, like, you'll see his name in books, and I'll just be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize he lettered this. So he's all over the place. He's lettered Mobius comics and Mignola and all kinds of cool shit. Yeah, so anyway, this is Mark Texeria and Mike Heisler. Now, I'm going to guess, for me, the first time that I saw Mark Texeria's work possibly was on Ghost Rider around the same time. I don't remember what he did first, but I think those were the first comics that I saw with his work. I never really collected comics as a kid, but I always flipped that with, there was a short amount of time for maybe 6 months that I was buying a lot of comic books, but it was real brief. But I loved Ghost Rider. So when I started getting interested in comics as an not older person, but you know what I mean, like years later, Ghost Rider I went to kind of immediately, because I knew that was always something that I thought was pretty cool. Anyway, so Union was a book that I actually did like, and I probably was already a fan of Jay Lee, and I'm trying to think of some other dark artists that maybe were going on at the time, but definitely I was aware of Jay Lee. So Texeria's stuff was actually, well, Sam Keith would be someone. It's not as over the top as Mark, but this book is very dark. And I remember at the time, after I was done reading it, I was like, I like that, but it's hard to see a little bit. But anyway, so let's get into the actual comic itself. We can talk a little bit about Mark's work and just sort of take a little trip down memory lane. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do, and smash that like button, please. You know it helps YouTubers. This is what we need. So Nick Bell, I remember Nick Bell. And what is this? So the Modern Icarus, thanks to Nick Bell, in color, Sam Keith of all people, and Ferdinand Salas. Special thanks to John Nee for nothing. That was funny, I brought up John Nee in the Travis video. I'm assuming that's a joke. Yeah, so, alright. Man, just even seeing this brings back a lot of memories. It was a very fun time to get interested in comics. There was a lot going on. And this is January 93. I'm going to guess that I got into comics, or is it June? I think it says June 93. I probably got into comics a month or two after this. That's going to be my guess. It was the summer of 93. So, this book was hot off the presses. I remember when I was collecting comics that the Image books were starting to get expensive, like the #1 issues. You'd have to pony up like $7 for an issue 1, because they were so scarce. It's like 6 million copies of them. So these files are interesting too. I don't know. They almost look like cell animation. I don't know what process they use. If they use like a filter to sort of smooth out the scan or something, but it is weird. But yeah, they almost feel like they're on cell animation. But again, you can see how dark this is. It's like this is a kid's baseball game. We've got a kid fishing. I mean, it's dark. I like dark art, so don't even get me wrong. But you could see maybe a little bit of the Sam Keith. I see some Neil Adams in this too, actually. And maybe a little Jim Lee. It was interesting. If you actually look at Chris Bacalo's work from around this time, you can actually see, even in his Generation Next stuff, a little bit of Jim Lee. And he actually did confirm that for me, that he was into Jim's stuff and trying to get a little bit of that aesthetic. But it's, you know, when you put it in a mix, like a Texeria mix too, it blends in and is pretty undetectable unless you kind of know. But this is very Neil Adams to me, this right here in particular. Colors are very saturated, but it works for me. That was actually one of my things that I didn't like about the video that I did yesterday. I wasn't a huge fan of the colors, and it was hard for me to sort of keep my mouth shut about it. I wasn't being mean by any means, but, you know, things like what you like and don't like is so subjective when you're doing sort of a fun look back at books. To sort of nitpick on stuff like that is just overboard, I think. You know, it doesn't really benefit the video, so that was one of the reasons I did it. It's funny, I actually had to draw a double page spread with a bunch of people flying like 2 or 3 days ago. And it's funny seeing this. His arms look long to me, but it was funny as some of my characters, the arms looked a bit long too. So this is Stormwatch coming in. So this is, who is this character? Hellstrike? So I know that's Fuji Battalion, Winter, Diva. We saw Diva in another comic. I didn't realize this guy was Hellstrike. I don't know why, but he's the only one that doesn't ring a bell to me. I thought Hellstrike had, like, the flaming head. Oh, you know, I think that this changed. I think Hellstrike ended up being another character, but Hellstrike, later on in the Wildstorm mythology, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of purplish with the, you know, he's got kind of like this, and, like, fire comes off of his head. But I remember that there's an ad, too, that you can find where Jim was, it was called Regent? Regal, something like that. There was another character that kind of never appeared. We'll see if we spot it in any of the comics, the ad. This is funny. He looks so human here, Winter. He just looks like a dude. It's like your neighbor, and they threw him in a flak jacket. All right, let's continue, friends. Man, that's crazy. You could see, though, as a new comic book collector, where I would maybe have thoughts of Jay Lee seeing this a little bit, you know. Jay came, I think, after Tex. I think Tex had been around longer. Could be wrong on that, but I know Jay did work for Marvel for a couple of years, so who knows. I guess Bisley would have been another artist that I stumbled on sometime the next year at this time. It wasn't as much, it was harder to find Bisley's work here. So again, you didn't have the internet in like the mid-90s, so it was whatever your store had on hand. I would go to about 5 different comic book stores, which wasn't really uncommon at that time, you know. I would hit 2 or 3 sometimes on New Comic Day just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because, you know, you might get to a store that opened at 11 and something might have sold out, or they didn't put it on the shelves, and you go to another store, you know, 20 minutes away, and you're like, they didn't have this freaking book? What the hell? Or a variant cover or whatever it was. So it was quite a panic almost on New Comic Day. People that collected at this time will know what I'm talking about, though. And I was always like, should I get 3 copies of this? Should I buy 5 copies of this book? This is my retirement. This is my get-rich-quick scheme. Although, you know, it's funny is we make fun of that sort of thing. Some of the early Image books actually do go for quite a bit of money now, especially in high grade. So it's like, even though there was a ton made, I do see some of the old books actually going for more than you would imagine, considering the print runs on them. This is nice. The story of Union was good too. I mean I don't really remember off the top of my head. This is a very nice drawing. But yeah, the story was pretty cool. You know, it was one of the more, I guess, human. Considering he's an alien, but he was one of the more human titles that I think Wildstorm had at that time. Like, kind of, you know, sort of like a little sad, and you kind of wanted, it was, you know, nice element of the human drama in it. Now, I don't remember, honestly, if the series, the 4-issue series, how satisfying it was at the end of it. I would have to go back and reread it to completely, like, take it in. Some stuff doesn't age well, and some stuff ages great. You know, you go back and you watch an old movie, and you go, this isn't as good as I remember, and then some stuff is better. So this is, again, a very, very nice drawing. Man, it's great. I definitely like Sam Keith, too. I thought Sam Keith's stuff on the Max, especially those early issues, was really, really cool. And, man, his Marvel Comics Presents issues, those covers and the Wolverine, man, those are great. This is nice. Really, really good. Strong lighting. It's dramatic. He's a very, very confident artist. I talk about this on Patreon for people that are learning to draw. You have to take whatever you know and just put it down with authority. You know, it's a hard thing to sort of, for some people, I'll say, not for everyone, but yeah, if you can have confidence and just put your stuff down, that'll really, really benefit you, and it also will help you learn, and you're just able to maximize what you know at that given moment. It's just play it like you've been there, you know, put it down like you mean it, and then just always be interested in learning more, you know, getting a little better at the things that you don't know. Because if you really broke this down, and what was interesting too is I remember as I got interested in comics real fast, it rekindled my interest in, like, drawing, and some artists were easier to learn from than others, and other artists you would look at their work and just go, I don't really know what I could pull from this. It's like, you know, if you were going to try to study drawing and you were going to try to learn something from, like, this area right here, it might be hard. It's very abstract, and you know, he's suggesting folds and little things like that, but it would be hard to make heads or tails of it. I always felt like Silvestri's stuff was a little bit like that too, where Mark would use such advanced and confident, sort of bold strokes for especially clothing and folds and stuff like that. A lot of it really was almost indecipherable. But it looked cool, you know, that's the thing. But that's that confidence, you know. You take that, what you do know, and you just put it down like you mean it. This is a very, very nice drawing. Oh, I thought I was in Clip Studio. Escape is... I was using the wrong... I was tapping R for rotate it back straight up. But escape is that in Photoshop. She's cute here. I can't remember her name either. Who is this? Elia? Elia. Did she carry over in any books? I don't remember her. Maybe I'm tripping, but yeah, I don't remember this character in any other books. She's kind of cool looking. She's got a little bit of is it Magdalena? What was, or Angela from Spawn kind of vibe. Although Angela from Spawn, I don't think it existed yet. She was coming soon though. But yeah, I don't think that she was in a comic yet. This is cool. Very memorable page. I've never really seen these originals floating around. I don't know if Tex sells his art or not, but yeah. But again, you can see how dark this is, and the colors actually keep it quite dark too. But even, you know, this heroic shot, he's completely in black and stuff like that. Now, I'm just speculating, but like someone like Jay Lee, if he were to do a piece like this, Jay usually will have some open space in the background, so you might get, you know, something along the lines of this happening behind it, or sorry, that's his cape. Stuff like that actually does sort of open it up just a little bit. Like, do you see, like, that kind of, it's weird, but it almost makes it more, you know, commercial. It sounds weird, but think it did. I'll go back. Yeah, it just sort of opens it up just the tiniest bit. Does it need it? No, not necessarily. But just like I said, the stuff, I felt like I was being challenged as a new comic book purchaser. It's like, it's so dark. And I like dark stuff. It's kind of cool, though, when people tell stories this way with so much shadow. You know, it definitely, I mean, can you imagine without it, it wouldn't be as dramatic of a story. So he really brought a sense of drama to it. Because, I mean, even things like this, everything has got shadows and silhouettes. And this is all in darkness. Yeah, I definitely get some Neil Adams vibes from Tex. Neil was, you know, before my time. I did go back and I bought a bunch of back issues of the continuity stuff. And then maybe like 10 or 15 years ago started to seek out like the Neil Adams like Batman stuff. And you know, it's real good. But yeah, I was very, very late to the game for Neil Adams, but if you were from a certain generation, Neil made a big, big impact on everyone, really. It's great. There's a channel. He does have a YouTube channel. It's the Artist Edition Index, I think it's called, and he reviews like almost every sort of artist edition that comes out. And it's not to say that there's a Neil Adams one, but that guy's got the right idea. He's clearly a huge fan of all comic art, and boy, those books are just worth their weight in gold. They're so freaking cool. Such great study tools, because like the at Neil Adams Batman stuff in particular, if you actually look at it, it looks great on newsprint, and it would look great in black and white. But the reprints on slick paper don't work. This is really interesting. I like that. You know, and that was probably his sketch, and he just opted to leave it like that, you know. No, could I have taken this to black? Oh, I just want to see something. I mean, I think he made the right call, but I'm just curious of if could he have taken it all shadow? I think, yeah, it would have been too much. I just want to see it done. Like, yeah, it looks weird. I like the openness of it. It looks really, really good. And that's just the, you know, that's, to me, that's an improvisational thing that happened in the pencils, that he just liked the way that it looked and kept it. You know, this is the magic of comics. I talked about that there's what's really, really cool about penciling and inking on paper as opposed to digital is you have a way higher likelihood of doing something like this. You have to make a decision pretty much right away. I mean, you could drag it out for a few hours during the afternoon while you sort of fiddle around on other panels. But ultimately, at some point, you've got to decide how you're going to ink that thing. And it's a one and done deal. You get it to a point where it looks good, and then you just leave it alone. You know, with digital, people just noodle with shit and go back and drag things out. And it's just a complete time suck, you know. The reason that we like this stuff is because of the breathing room and the what would you call it, like the spontaneity of it, you know. At times you'll see a little bit of maybe like photo reference in his stuff. This almost looks like it could have been from like a photo. I'm not saying that it was, but I don't know, it has like a little slight bit of realism to it. Sometimes proportionately it will change, where like when you're cartooning and drawing out of your head, the size relationships of things are a little more stylized, and then if you use photo reference, objects get kind of bigger for whatever reason. Heads will be bigger, noses will be bigger, the distances kind of aren't as comic booky, and you can kind of sense it, because his shapes are very exaggerated. Kelly Jones to me is like that too. Kelly has periods where he uses a lot of reference, and then periods where he doesn't. I feel like you can kind of see the difference. This is nice. This is kind of Neil Adams-ish too. Or some of the epic or heavy metal, like Alex Nino and those kind of artists. Sorry, I meant to go the other way. It's interesting seeing the Stormwatch characters in here. He does a great job with these guys. Again, just very dark. Dark, dark, dark. This is so crazy. And these were the longer books, you know. The page count on these books was bigger than what we're used to now for at least like traditional comics, generally speaking. I think DC's normal page count is 20 pages of interior art now. So these books actually had more art. Feels like there's still a lot of pages left. Now sometimes on #1 issues they'll spread it out a little too, so even with the image books it's possible that issue 2, 3, or 4 might have less pages. Again, very, very dark page. Could try to lighten it a little bit, or let me do it this way actually. You know, and sometimes, like with Nick Manabat, I know people had asked for Nick Manabat's Cybernary. I'm going to lower the saturation on this just a little bit too. The rub with that is it printed so damn dark. You know, the reproductions of it are just so muddy. The first issue in particular is the colors got so dark. It's kind of like this. Yeah, man, he's good. This is nice. Like, nice running pose. It's got a little bit of an Eric Larson vibe to me. Like, Savage Dragon. Eric Larson's good, man. This is really cool. Love that. Man, that's a great pose. Go, Fuji, go. All right, we're getting towards the end of this. Holy cow, that is dark. Let's do this. We got to get a little lighter. It's just too dark. Whoa. So did any of you buy this when it came out? Do you remember picking it up? It would be kind of funny. The nostalgia of it all. This feels very Neil Adams too, this whole thing. Some books I actually remember waiting for or picking up. Some I don't as much. I remember reading this book. I don't actually remember buying it. But I remember reading it, liking it, feeling challenged by it. I was surprised how dark it was. And thought that the story was interesting. It felt a little different than the other stuff that they were publishing. So it was kind of cool, you know. Gosh, it's so dark. These are tough poses. You know, it's I've had to do a lot of in the first 2 issues of Crystal Planet, people sort of standing around. Man, you just run out of ideas for it. It's an interesting thing. So I always appreciate when people can come up with sort of body language that's interesting for just standing around, you know. Having an arm up definitely helps. If you can turn the figure at an interesting angle, that tends to open things up. You know, if you can play with the legs a little bit, maybe one forward or back or a knee bent, all those little subtle things help. I'm not that good at it yet, but I'm attempting it. You know, you sort of build up your courage and try it and go, right? I've done multiple pages of ones that I don't like, so maybe now this one will be the one. But I'm telling you, I said to Kier yesterday, I don't know if Kier will see this video, but yeah, you know, all those challenges, you may not win that day. You know, you may try a new pose and it doesn't really work. But the thing is that experience might actually benefit you for drawing down the road. So that's where it actually, you know, the attempting it, maybe not landing it completely, your brain is problem solving though, and that's the thing. So this is Regent. So trying to remember what the freaking. I'm feeling like this character did carry on, but there was a Rival. It was called Rival. It was a shot of like a character with his arms up like this. I think, yeah, it was called Rival. And so they had ads for this character called Rival. He looked a little tiny bit like this. I don't think that Rival ever actually did end up getting his own book. I mean, we were actually very lucky that Deathblow did. And speaking of Deathblow, we should definitely do Deathblow. And then we have got the, is this the letter page or just, I guess the end of the book. So, all right. So, okay, have a great day. That was fun. It was interesting to see. It gave me some ideas for future videos. And, yeah, hopefully that was fun for you. Please feel free to recommend any other Wildstorm titles that you would like to look at. It can be a specific issue. If you go, I would love to do Wildcat Spawn issue 2. That was my favorite. Be that specific. It's completely fine. I have no issue with that at all. And again, as we move along, it'll be fun to revisit these artists where we start early in their career, like someone like Brett Booth or Ryan Benjamin or Matt Broom or Dan Norton. And there's so many different artists. I'm referring to pencilers right now, but I mean, obviously there was a lot of inkers involved in all this too, and colorists. But yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. We could look at like something early in Dan Norton's career, and then look at an issue that he did 2 years later, and see how his work changed. How did it evolve? Like what early isms did his work have that stayed with it, and what new things were brought in. It's a pretty fun little adventure we can go on. Sorry, have a great day. Remember, this is entertainment, not fact. I just look at the books and kind of wing it. So remember, they're just for fun, and don't quote me on any of this. All right, later.